Good morning and welcome to online worship with the First Parish of Sudbury Unitarian Universalist. There is a button below this window that enables you to receive the morning's order of worship, so please click on it to follow along. You will also notice in the order of worship that the words for the music are there, so please feel free to sing along. Our meeting house has been a gathering place for our evolving congregation for over 380 years. To ensure the health and well-being of our members and friends, we have moved online for the time being. Even though we are not gathering at the meeting house, we hold it in our hearts and minds as it is an anchor to our commitment and faith with one another. Wherever or however we gather together, we endeavor to create a space where we are all welcome. Whether one is a longtime member or you just found your way here this morning. Each and all of you are encouraged to safely bring your whole self to this virtual gathering, all of your respective beliefs, identities, gladness, and sorrows. Leave nothing about yourself behind. We are so happy that you are with us this morning. You, my dear friends, are most precious. So this morning as we gather in love. We gather to support one another, and we gather with compassion for all. Even though we are not sitting side by side this morning, let us remember that we travel this journey of courage, hope, faith, and love together. And I also want to mention, if you haven't noticed, I'm not Reverend Marge Massey. I'm a longtime congregation member filling in for her today, Gail Hardenbergh. Today's opening reading was written by Anne Wilson Schaff. I realized that living in the present is not an idea, it's reality. It's like taking one step at a time. Sounds good, good philosophy, right? Then it occurred to me, have you ever taken 2 steps at a time? We can't. It's as simple as that. We can't. It's the same with living in the present. Our thoughts may wander to the past or the future, yet our thoughts are just thoughts. Our bodies are in the present. We are in the present. That's just the way it is. Please join me from right where you are in our Unison Chalice lighting. We gather in this time of uncertainty, full of unknowns, as angst closes in upon us. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our interconnection. For this moment, this radical moment, we find a certainty within the knowable bonds of love and community. The reading for today is from the chapter called The Path is the Goal, from the book When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. What does it take to use the life we already have in order to make us wiser rather than more stuck? What is the source of wisdom at a personal, individual level? To the degree that I've understood the teachings, the answer to these questions seems to have to do with bringing everything we encounter to our path. This path has one very distinct characteristic. It is not prefabricated. It doesn't already exist. The path that we're talking about is the moment-by-moment evolution of our experience, the moment-by-moment evolution of the world of phenomena, the moment-by-moment evolution of our thoughts and our emotions. The path is not Route 66, destination Los Angeles. It's not as if we can take out a map and figure that this is the year we might make it to Gallup, New Mexico, and maybe by next year we'll be in LA. The path is uncharted. It comes into existence moment by moment, and at the same time, drops away behind us. It's like riding in a train sitting backward. We can't see where we're headed, only where we've been. Marjorie asked me to lead the service for all of you today. A bit of a daunting task, I admit. I wondered what I might possibly talk about. And I ended up realizing I can only talk about what I know. So during the service today, I will be sharing information about feelings and how we can use our knowledge of neurobiology to actually help ourselves feel better. Just like all of you, I've been suffering in the midst of this pandemic. I doubt I need to describe too much about what I mean by that. Experiencing something as relentless feels like suffering to me. And at this point, relentless is indeed the word. As I said, my goal today is to inform you about ways that you can literally help yourself feel better almost anytime you want to. That was a brand new idea for me about 10 years ago when I first learned about it. I did not know that was possible. I knew I could distract myself. Well, don't we all know that? But that would lead to a temporary reprieve. But sometimes my distractions ultimately made me feel worse about myself. Doritos, anyone? The strategies I'm going to tell you about today are entirely different. But in order to share these strategies with you, I need to put them into a context that will help anchor them. Sometimes when I hear advice, it goes in one ear and out the other because it doesn't really make sense to me. So my wish today is to help you make sense of what I'm saying. I'm trying hard not to bore you or overwhelm you. Let's hope I succeed. First, I want to share with you a few fundamental facts about how the body operates. Many of us have never really noticed much about the nature of our feelings, and that's understandable because they occur naturally and unbidden. We don't choose to have a feeling suddenly, we just have it. We might think of our feelings as separate entities from our bodies, but that is not the truth. Make no mistake about it. Our feelings are completely intertwined with the neurobiology of our bodies. So let's take the nervous system. Our nervous system communicates and responds through our five senses to all kinds of stimulation. Something happens and we react to it. This goes on many times a day without much thought. But here's a newsflash. The bulk of our nervous system is continually working below the level of consciousness. Through the capacity of what's called neuroception, we are continually evaluating our safety. The term neuroception describes how neural circuits distinguish whether situations or people are safe, dangerous, or life-threatening. Neuroception explains why a baby coos at a caregiver but cries at a stranger, or why a toddler enjoys a parent's embrace but views a hug from a stranger as an assault. So once we view something as threatening, it's the nervous system's job to help us solve the problem and then regulate us back to a sense of well-being. The lingo is that we become temporarily dysregulated so we can put all of our energy into handling the crisis. You with me so far? The nervous system has two primary ways that help us deal with any crisis. It can stimulate our reactivity, or it can dramatically decrease it. I recently read a recap of the experience of passengers on an airplane that seemed to be hurtling towards a crash. It did not crash, thank God. Some people screamed during the descent. One woman said she has no memory because she went right to sleep. That's a good example of how our nervous system takes charge. It can push up the volume inside us or shut it down completely. Sometimes we react to life stresses by becoming enraged, and other times we withdraw and shut down. And even though these strategies are opposites, they are both working with the same goal in mind, to somehow cope with the problem and then get back to feeling in tune and having a sense of well-being. So in normal times, when we're lucky, we might have a sense of well-being much of the day. These days, probably the best we can feel is what it must be like to be in the eye in the center of a storm. Things are swirling around us, to be sure, but somehow we have moments of solace and calm and even happiness. What a blessing those moments are, aren't they? I hope you've experienced many. So how can we help ourselves have more of these moments? I'm leading you to that answer. I'd like to help you land in the eye of the storm more often. We can't cancel the storm, but we can sometimes feel peaceful in the midst of it. The equipment, so to speak, that we use to do this kind of regulation to feel better is called the vagus nerve. I'm going to talk a lot about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a very large nerve network that runs along the spine from the brain to the colon. And their nerve branches extend into the face, the lungs, and into the digestive system. And it's only been researched and understood in the last 20 years or so, which is amazing. It's kind of the equivalent of not mentioning that Route 95 runs down the East Coast to someone wanting to drive to Florida. Like, it's that prominent. So, two biggest things to know about the vagus nerve are these. First, it essentially acts like a thermometer registering how calm or upset we are. So we gather information through neuroception, we're unaware of it, and the vagus nerve alerts us that something is amiss. It alerts us by activating feelings in our bodies. We get adrenaline, change of breathing, increased heart rate, nausea, tension. We instantly understand these body sensations to mean danger. What's that? Watch out, get ready. Now, if we feel nauseous when we're afraid, we slow digestion, which allows the blood to go to the muscles. That way, we have the strength for a quick getaway when the tiger approaches the mouth of the cave. The vagus nerve can speed up or slow down our heart rate or our breathing. Again, putting our resources where they are most needed in an emergency. It can ramp us up or shut us down. Whatever it determines will be safest for us. The vagus nerve is in charge. And then when the vagus nerve determines that we're safe, it dictates how we will come back to well-being. It tells our bodies to stand down as it sets in motion the physiological responses that bring us back to well-being. For example, it tells our brain to excrete calming hormones, which make us feel good. So essentially, the vagus nerve first acts like the thermometer that registers the danger. And then it acts like a powerful medical treatment or drug that resets our physical state of being. And everything I've just described happens without our conscious participation. That is really key. It's just automatic. So there's something else that happens during this experience, and it happens so fast, we remain unaware of it as a process. Our mind creates a story to explain what is happening to us. Uncertainty is unsettling to us. Now, the story might be true, but it also may not be true. That was a burglar. That was a loose shutter. We are very used to believing our own stories. We usually call them facts. When we explain to ourselves why we are feeling a certain way, we begin a back and forth process between the story and the state of our well-being. Human beings have always been storytellers and scientists. Don't you ever picture our ancestors sitting around a campfire or at the mouth of a cave and sharing stories about hunting or childbirth? I certainly do. Oh, this is why that happened. Oh, okay, now I can relax. Or, oh no, I better remain on guard. Stories serve an important function in our well-being. But sometimes our stories actually increase our dysregulation. These are the what-if stories that we tell ourselves. Here's where we all become screenwriters. What if this? What if that? And then this. And honestly, I'm noticing right now, as I'm saying these words out loud to you, my body is starting to feel agitated, and I'm not even thinking of a particular calamity. I end up inviting myself to feel tension and stress when I take my own what-if story seriously. The good news, and the place I want to spend most of the time with you today, is that modern neurobiology has established that certain actions that we take directly affect the vagus nerve. I described earlier how the vagus nerve is in charge of sending our body directions about how to get dysregulated in order to help in a crisis and then return to well-being, all without much participation from us. But it turns out that we can choose to have a greater influence over that process than we ever knew. I think this is so cool. Most of the actions bypass any story. We're not telling ourselves to calm down. I'm simply influencing the vagus nerve itself directly through my physical experiences, my physical actions. It's almost like we trick it into seeing that we're fine. And when we do that, the vagus nerve will quickly make us feel better. So if we deliberately choose to take an action in response, the vagus nerve calms everyone down inside. And the value of that is immeasurable. I mean, isn't that the equivalent of having access to expensive medical treatments or drugs propelling us back to well-being? There are things we can all do. So here are some specific strategies that really work. And all of these actions directly affect the tone of the vagus nerve, influencing it to send out the all clear message. Here's one of my favorites. Take 15 or maybe 20 deep breaths. Now this sounds like, yeah, Gail, whatever. No, I'm telling you, it's like taking a Xanax. Some years ago, when I was a first-time worship host at a summer service, I had been out of the country and had somehow missed the email describing my duties. I didn't even really know I had any duties. I thought I'd be handed a script when I got there. When I showed up at the church at 9:30, I had that dreaded experience of not realizing I had a final exam or being naked in front of people or realizing I'd messed up royally, and my vagus nerve went into action. I started to sweat and feel nauseous. My heart rate increased, and it was hard to focus on what I was doing. Luckily, I had recently learned about the 15 deep breaths. I went into the bathroom near the Commons. I counted out 15 breaths. I'd never tried it before. I was amazed that all of my physical symptoms abruptly ceased, and I emerged from the bathroom, ready to do what was needed and even enjoy the experience. I was really shocked at how effective it was. There are other ways to affect the vagus nerve by taking specific physical actions, and here are a few. Sighing is a common way that the nervous system regulates itself many times an hour. Who knew that? I didn't. But we can do it on purpose. Deliberately yawning. It's another way the body naturally regulates. Moving, if it feels safe. Bowing, rocking, extending, stretching, curling up. Practicing yoga falls in this category. Again, if it's safe and if it's comfortable. Some kinds of exercise work, and it's an individual experience of what helps one person, but maybe not another. The goal is to focus on what's just right for you. The inner focus of meditation has been studied and shown to have a powerful effect on the vagus nerve, especially when one is practicing what is called loving kindness towards oneself and others. One simply chooses to think kindly in this moment, and then the next moment, and then the next. Did you know that we borrow each other's nervous systems? This can lead to the experience of attunement with another living creature. It's a crucial part of normal development to participate in this when we are starting out in life. I'm a baby. I may have started out dysregulated a few moments ago, but now I'm fed. I'm dry. I'm being held in someone's loving arms, and all is right with the world. My body matches the caregiver's heartbeat and breathing. I melt into him or her. I am in attunement, and it brings relief and relaxation. There are many ways to recreate that blissful experience as adults. with friends, family, or animals, and I count myself so lucky each time I feel just that way. But these days, it's certainly not a given that it's available, is it? I mean, I have felt increased happiness Zooming with friends and family, but simple proximity is not necessarily available. And simple proximity is powerful. Luckily, some of the ways we feel attuned and affect the vagus nerve don't require being in person. A big one is shared laughter and shared awe. That can lead us to feeling attuned. Other ways to affect our vagus nerve and become regulated involve the use of the voice. It's only recently that we could hear music on demand. Throughout most of human history, we had to create our own music. The neurological shifts that happen when a person sings, hums, talks, or chants are powerful. Little sidebar here. Brain research has proved that even thinking about chanting has a positive effect on our nervous system. How cool is that? Think about the videos of people singing together from their windows in Italy, Brazil, and Brooklyn. Each person is affecting their own body by the act of singing, as well as helping each other feel attuned by a shared presence. Okay, brain research again. Did you know there are 14 distinct emotions that humans can recognize even when we are simply hearing gibberish vocal outbursts? We can read the emotions simply by the inflection. So whenever we are making noises together, not only do we benefit from the physical experience of making the sound ourselves, but we get the potential of increased attunement by a feeling of mutual understanding and being with each other. Since we do have the privilege of listening to music, that can also be a powerful regulator. Now, here's an amazing little factoid. Brain research has proven that certain pieces of music carry just the right tone and rhythm to powerfully affect us, even if we don't love the music. One studied example is from a singer called Enya called Only Time. Check it out. Now, I said earlier that these actions bypass the story. They affect the vagus nerve on a purely physical level, and that's magical. But there's also room for a way to use our stories to regulate ourselves. This is one of my favorites. I call this wallowing in positive memories. So think of some wonderful experience you've had that always brings a smile to you. You aren't proving anything to end the world. You're just enjoying your own private memory. Now close your eyes and do what you can to relax your body. Just let yourself go there. Just linger. Remember as many details as you can. Scenes, light, warmth, smells, touch. And finally, elevation is the name of the neurological change that occurs in our bodies when we witness human goodness, virtue, beauty, and kindness. We are very lucky when we happen to see this in life. In a training I took some years ago, we all first monitored the state of our well-being and then watched a 2-minute video that was grainy, not in English, and a little confusing. But afterwards, our well-being was exultant because we had witnessed profound kindness. In the age of YouTube, there are many examples available to us if we seek them out. Remember, you're not wasting time. You are undergoing a medical treatment. Given that we are in the midst of a pandemic with no specific end in sight, how does one ever truly stand down? If we're willing to experiment with consciously staying in the day, staying in this moment, it can help a lot. This is what we call mindfulness. I doubt many of us are capable of living 24/7 in mindfulness, but we can choose to do it right now, can't we? Just right now. That's all. As best we can, we try to let the next moment be taken care of later, not now in anticipation of it. We avoid going down the path of the what ifs as much as we can, or we limit the amount of time we allow ourselves to do that, just as we put limits on our other distractions. I have so appreciated feeling connected to all of you while preparing this talk. It has helped my own well-being during the past 2 weeks. I want to end this talk by offering you the experience of awe and elevation. Here's a video that the Rotterdam Symphony made as a gift to each one of us. I invite you to notice your well-being as you watch and listen. Thank you so much. First Parish is financially sustained by annual pledges, fundraisers, donations of time and treasure, and with this, our weekly offering. Please be generous if you are able. The online offering is available in 2 ways, now by clicking the button below the screen, or a new feature that we've been working on for quite some time. You can now share your offering via text. Please refer to the order of worship for instructions on how to continue to support the work of First Parish. We thank you for your generosity. Let us join in saying our unison extinguishing of the chalice, located in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for gathering with us for online worship this morning. While we are meeting online, we'll be offering the opportunity to gather with the minister to share milestones and announcements directly after, as is our tradition, the postulate. After the music stops, please click on the coffee hour button below the screen next to the order of worship and the offering buttons, and you will be moved to a Zoom meeting. Good and loving people, our time in worship has come to an end. So I bid you to go in peace, speak your truth in love, and give thanks each and every day. Live simply and approach with an open heart and mind. Let your faith, not your fear, be your guide. So may it be. Blessed be. Amen.